February 15th, 6 o'clock, and call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present from council, all members of council are present. In the administration, we have Darren Morley, Fire Chief Whittington, Police Chief Wright, we have Service Director Kevin Koselnik, and Finance Director Carol Ann Schindel. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Finance Director Schindel as we review the expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year.
Mayor, do you want to say anything first?
No, I think, as we said at the council meeting, that now all the directors have gone over the budget, and Carol Ann plugged the numbers in, and like I said, we really didn't say no to a lot of the asks from the directors and chiefs this year, but we put off a few things till possible mid-year, end of year, or not end of year, after July or August for other tax elections and see where we get.
Okay. If you want to look at page 4, now I mentioned this last meeting, and that is, this is the proposed budget. This is what your legislation would look like if no numbers change, and that is, I listed by fund, by cost center, by personnel, and then other expenses. And the finance department is not allowed to move out of each one of those boxes. In other words, I can't move from the finance department into the building department for personnel. I cannot take the finance, let's say, training budget and put it in the salary. I have to stay within the other expenses within finance, the other expenses within building. I have to stay within the personnel in each of those departments, as well as each fund. So this summarizes everything that follows behind it. This is the grand summary. So that's page 4. If I go to page 8, page 8 shows that each one of these funds is either a zero or a positive balance. The city is not allowed to deficit spend, and therefore I need to make sure that based on the revenue that we discussed on, that the planned expenditures do not take it down to a negative balance. This is the worksheet, the summary that says, look, we started the year with $5.5 million. If the revenue comes in as we discussed last week, if the expenses, as in the general fund, if the expenses, as we have budgeted them, are all spent, we would end up at $3.6 million. So this is a summary of each fund in terms of this is where we started, this is what we think was coming in, here's our expenses. I have more detail that follows. Page 9 is a summary over a whole year of our fund balances. I've tried to give you 5 years of information. Page 10 is 5 years worth of revenue. Page 11 is 5 years worth of expenses with the current year's budget. Page 12, this is the information that we went over in terms of the general fund for revenue last week. What you'll find behind that then, on page 15, are the expenses as proposed for the general fund. I want you to know that this package, even though it's 64 pages, is more than 100 tabs in my Excel worksheet. Because the detail is such that I go down to every individual on what they get paid, what are the taxes that I have to pay, etc. So the detail behind this, even though I may just say wages, truly has all the individuals behind it. And when I talk about hospitalization, it has all the detail behind it. What I try to do in doing this budget is I try to look at the past 5 years. Now I have to remember that 20 and 21 were maybe a little different than some prior years due to COVID. So I have to take that into account. And then I also look at what was needed last year, because maybe those expenditures have increased for whatever may be the reason. Maybe postage went up, maybe, I don't know, we have more training required. But there's reasons why maybe I had to use last year's actual to budget versus maybe what we've been spending over the last couple of years. So therefore, when I'm looking at the budget on the general fund, again, I categorize them for budgeting purposes so that I have the mayor's office, I have economic development, and I have council, clerk, finance, etc. And I've gone through every one of these lines. Some of the differences that, well, it says public access channel, but it's not really a public access channel. Some account number is incorrect on that line, but I'll find it and I'll get back to it. Under mayor's office. I just thought that it says public access, but we changed the account, so it's no longer public access. Payroll, you know, some of these numbers in here are small numbers, so it's nothing to be concerned about. When we look at mayor's economic development's a little different in the fact that we started that category in the middle of 21. Previously, it had some expenses under council, and it had some expenses wherever else it may have been applicable, but it was decided to try to combine all these activities that we hold for the community in something called economic development. So that's why it really is budgeted similar to the prior years. It's just not reflective of it because we changed the count. Council office, pretty much the same as prior years. Clerk of council, again, other than payroll, which, you know, is dictated by union contracts or individuals working within those departments, the other expenses are pretty consistent. Finance department really doesn't have much from the prior year difference in terms of a budget. You can see that maybe conferences and meetings are up $2,000, and other contracts might be up $2,000. Well, I know that as a professional base department that's required to have training, I'm required to have 24 hours of training, 40 hours, I'm sorry. I'm required to have 40 hours of training. As I said, in prior years, the last 2 years, everything's been put on hold. We didn't go to college for training. We didn't do any of that. So we budgeted in there, hoping that this year these things are starting to loosen up. I can tell you, I know my conferences are starting to be live in first year Columbus, and see that information come through. So it's in there, but again, it's required to have, in my case, 40 hours. I know Dave's department's required, I know the police and the fire are required, so the training is coming back in. You'll see some differences in that. If I go to the next bucket right after finance, you'll see RETA expenses. RETA expenses are up because they are in anticipation of the revenue coming up. RETA is a function of the revenue. So for every dollar coming in, there's a percentage that goes to RETA. Mid-year, RETA will evaluate that reserve that they've taken on our account from the prior year, determine if there's any refunds, and we have always seen refunds coming back. But I cannot tell you how much, I cannot tell you what that number is, but I can tell you based on my agreement with RETA, this is a percentage, that's the number that it's going to be unless something comes through. Refunds, I said last meeting that we had some large refunds last year. In terms of estimated, people made estimated payments, businesses made estimated payments. You can see that I've increased it about 25,000 over last year's actual. I don't know what those refunds will be as of. Should we need more, I'll come back next. Tax grants, that is our our incentive program, and that is basically what companies that are here that are getting rebates. legal, community court is whatever the city will be building, but I'm telling you that there's more and more activity from our end, and therefore we get a higher percentage, because it's based on activity, so our higher percentage will give us a higher cost of the board. City Hall building, all right, I see a really big, huge change in the budget. It's $232. Well, I will remind you that all the department heads approached the mayor, so this is what we need, this is where we think we're going to have to make some changes to our budget. If you flip to page 62, scroll the page. 62 represents those items that we've changed based on the request, and I call them capital items. And I went so far to say, this is the category that these lines should fall into, to try to help everybody involved. And so where's this money? Well, when I talked about the city hall, I said there was a large increase. Yeah, there is a large increase, because we're hoping to be able to complement an insurance claim that we have in order to completely redo the roof. Now, I can't say that this is enough, but this is my best guess. I can also tell you that, see this wallpaper that's falling down in those corners there? We're anticipating being able to pull this wallpaper off, which is a major process, and clean up the glue behind it and then get it painted. So between the city hall removing of the wallpaper and the roof, what I talked about in the general fund saying, oh, I see a large increase under city hall building, that is very much so related to this $220,000. That amount that I'm asking for in repairing a building is $232,000 more than last year, which I've just accounted for $220,000 in these two things. Okay? We don't do the roof repair without coming to you for approval. I'm just budgeting it because we're anticipating that we're going to do this, and if every time we made a change to the budget in terms of this needs to be done and that needs to be done, I will be changing your budget weekly in here. Right now, though, I still will be coming to you saying, here's my quote, you accept these quotes, we accept this bid, because obviously I can't do that without your approval. And provided it falls within this range, this is what we hope the roof will cost and where we'll end up at the end of the year in terms of our general fund should be $3.6 million. Okay? So if the roof comes in more, I'm going to be less than 3.6. If it comes in less, then we'll have some savings, we'll be a little. I'm just trying to give you a feeling of where we should end the year if all of our ideas and costs come in as we have been planned. Yeah.
You're anticipating replacing the entire roof, correct?
Well, we're still in settlement with the insurance company, not hoping to get done hopefully this week or next. Plans are to do that, yes, but it might be in stages from what we just talked about. We're getting a few more estimates from the first one we have. So yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now I go back to page 16 because I'm going through the general fund and I'm trying to explain these large increases. I'm going to tell you that I have a large number in the HSA payment as well as hospitalization and dental. When I talked to the insurance company a couple of weeks ago, they made a point telling us that we have a lot of young people on our plan, which is fact. We have a large number of young people on our plan. We have a large number of young people because we really don't have that middle group, a lot of the middle group. You know, think back 10 years when we had the layoff, and you kept all the people with experience and all those young people got got the more experienced people still on the roll. So our numbers are skewed in the terms of hospitalizations towards young people because we don't have that middle group. When we hire them, they're single. That's great. 6 months later, a year later, it's usually less than a year. They're married with kids. Triple the cost. So what I try to do is I try to say, here's my married group, here's my single people. Let's say 30% of them get married, and I put in a 30%, hey, they're gonna be married with family number in the budget to try to anticipate that who they are today and they're gonna be who they are in another 3 months.
Like the point out the cops don't stay married.
I would think having younger would be beneficial than old people that could hurt. But, you know, that's the insurance company
It's a flat cost for the
tipping it
family.
whichever way they want it to be.
Yeah, it's a flat cost for the family, it's not age weighted. Because of our size, we're not an age weighted plan. We're just based on single married family, or, single married kid family. So that is the anticipation that rates will go up, which they have, approximately 9%. And then adding in a certain percent are going to be changing status, okay? So there's math behind it, and that's the best guess I can give you. Workers' comp. Workers' comp isn't really a large change. It was the timing of the payment. We paid $145,000, but we paid it in January of this year. We didn't really, but because we used the credit card, because it gave us the green status, which is a good status with workers' comp, and the credit card bill didn't come in until January, it's going to reflect a little differently than maybe what it did in the past. But last year we paid $145 grand, paying $137, because we know they lowered some rates for the government. Okay, so that looks weird, but only because of the timing of that payment. Real estate taxes, I know, are going down because we've been able to now, when we buy new land, we have to wait a year or two until we can ask for it to come off the tax roll as tax exempt, and have to go to the state. I finally got all those approved by the state, but for one, I still have to pay that one. There is some property that we pay taxes on because it's not in a business use, but very little. Most of what this is called in terms of property tax really is our runoff cost. I mean, you know, you've got a parking lot, you gotta pay the runoff cost, and so that's what it is. Let's see. Insurances are going up, cyber insurance rates are going up. Not much there. On page 17, you'll see that there's, the equipment line went up about almost $86,000. So that relates back to these are our needs. There's 2 vehicles in there. So that's the going up over last year by $85,600. If you look at 101, 310, wages again are a factor of people and the contract. But the training went up. The training went up because it was required in the police department. There's some new requirements. It's would be happy to answer, but that is on the list in the box saying we have to add 10. So therefore, it's up about 14, but 10 with a very specific answer. Vehicles in that same police department 310 is up 35,000, a very specific ask for a vehicle. You're on page 18. If you look at 101, 314, I've got repair of buildings. That relates to the back page where we have some, I want to say it's roof repair. And 101-315, there's a $30,000 increase. That is, new equipment, let me see, voice recorder and, no, voice recorder, 30,000.
Range.
The range is in here too, got the building in there, I'm sorry, that was the building material, so it is. And a roof, there's some roof repair in there.
I'm sorry, which one is range under?
The range is in with the building repair and roof repair.
Okay.
It's called repair buildings, there's some repairs in there.
314, 5374.
It's 374, yeah, that's
Thank you.
3,000. Three, 101-320, there's, I don't think. No. I don't think that one is a result of anything in particular. 101-320 equipment machine. It's really just, looking at the past, what's been budgeted, and trying to give them some flexibility in case they need something. So some about 18,000. 101-370, that's a retirement fund. The retirement fund is split for police and fire into two different funds, three different funds. That is the portion that the general fund will pay. As we go through later on, you'll see that our levy money will pay an additional portion. Public health, we give that money to the county for our health department. 101-510, 510 has a few extra increases this year. We have small schools, they're small schools. In the past, it's been very, very minimal. We provided some additional small schools. I've explained what small schools go in here. So we have, 510, we have metal cutting saws, we have concrete saw blades, we have, rigid pro of the, presses under 18. But you can see that there are reasons, again, for that detail, and I've provided every department head as well as you, why we thought those increases would be there. If they were significant, you would be able to find them very on that page. Equipment, equipment and machines are increased for, again, some requirements on the service department. And trees, we're finding that we're spending a lot of money on maintaining trees in the city. So we put in an ask for additional money. Houston Fisher Pool, we're needing some repairs. We also contribute to the operation of the pool, and therefore that has gone up. It's on their list. Tap Center, there's some requests under 101-555. There's going to be pavilion repair, and see what else you might have in there. Parking lot. In fact, that 35,000 is probably the parking lot, and your pavilion probably is part of the pavilion in the back. Yeah, we have, Building department, large number is grounds maintenance. That is, 101-610-5391. That's a function of the revenue. It's a function of who cuts the grass and who leaves trash all over it, leaves it, and then we have to clean up the run. We charge the people that leave it enough, and we have to send somebody out there. So if the city is going to spend 30,000 in terms of cost, we have billed 30,000 to get that money back.
Carolyn, can I ask a quick identified as Kent Senior Center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so are we calling this the new senior center, still Kent Senior Center?
I can change the name, I just call it the senior center, and I don't change the account number.
No, right.
I don't know what the name of it is, I'm just saying
That's where
that senior center.
I got you, I was just confused. Thanks.
I apologize, remove the first half, but that's the senior center.
Got it. Thank you.
810 service administration. There are some tools that are maybe more, service general, more so like a rigid drain tank. That's gonna be on the building. I couldn't charge it for the parks, I didn't think it was fair to charge the roads. But I left it on the building service administration, and that's where their tools are. Again, when you go back to the expenditures that are what we consider capital, you'll see there's an extra 13,000. Street repair, nothing really much different over prior year budget, but maybe a little different over, actual, and sometimes it's the timing of the bills. 101-830, which is the service garage, that has a repair in it, or garage, roof repair in it. A minor repair to the HVAC system. Bottom line is it went up $303,200, and it's $300 for the roof and $3,200 for HVAC. Okay. When you go to the next couple of pages, each fund has its own page. Do I have questions? No? Okay. Each fund has its own page. And the revenue we discussed last time, but I wanted you to see the specifics in comparison with how we spend it. So you will see the state highway fund mostly comes in from gasoline tax and vehicle licenses, which I'm hoping to hit in those numbers this year. Pretty flat. But we use it for state route too. We reimburse the county for that one. And there's two places that we reimburse the county, but there's one place where we reimburse the county. We actually have to. The next page, the street construction, maintenance, and repair. Well, this one got a little different because if you look at the revenue back in 2019, it was nice. It was very nice, but we didn't spend all that. It's increasing also in the gasoline tax. Remember a couple of years ago, about that year, when they changed the gasoline tax, we were charged a little more at the pump? We're getting the benefit right here in this fund. This is that increase in the tax. Because this fund was able to maybe stave off that increase over the past couple of years, you will see, as you look at the expenses, that there's $1,150,000 for concrete service, asphalt service, it's our road repair program. You will see $100,000 for engineering costs. If we didn't have that increase in the sales tax, we wouldn't have been able to do that amount of money for road repairs this year. These are the jobs we did out, you approved. I'm gonna say, there's some streets in Surfside, there's 361, there's some streets here that are in desperate need of repair that we've approved, awarding contracts. This is who's paying for it. The street construction, maintenance, and repair. In addition, there are some, $40,000 worth of charges that are capital type expenditures from the estimate that are in street maintenance. We will still end up with a positive balance, but we won't be able to afford another major group of streets next year out of this fund. this fund throughout the year, and we're spending 2.1, so we're gonna end up the year with 57,000 if everything comes true. But it's a good thing for this year, because it's given us that opportunity to do these major road projects. Okay? And that legislation's been passed to do those roads. 203 is pretty consistent in terms of, we get permissive tax, we spend permissive tax. We spend it mostly on the golf that goes out there, on the road, and the lease payment that we have for a loader, which is coming to, end. The lease payments will be over this year. ARPA money, we know we're getting it in. I ask that we be allowed to expend it, but I will not be able to spend anything over $25,000 without coming to you first. I'm just saying, I anticipate spending. I don't have anything more for that. State grants had some huge differences this year, both in revenue and expenses. State grants really should be what comes in goes out. There's timing differences on the state grants. But basically, what comes in is going to go out at some point in time. Some of these I have to prepay, some of these I don't, and so there is some money in here. But what you will see is the harbor sewer of $1.9 million is in here. The state capital grant of $475,000 is in here. We have a dike repair for almost $150,000, we have an EPA for about $188,000. So we have some large grants this year, very large, which we anticipate spending. Truly, I don't anticipate spending it all this year, but I didn't know how to say, well, I'll spend a third, maybe I'll spend a half. I don't know. It depends on how fast those guys are out there working on the construction, on these sewer projects, and I just know that it's been awarded, so by the middle spend. Federal grant has the same concept, what comes in goes out. It's pretty much on the same schedule, in terms of what we spend. Some of the grants actually give us money in advance, but the federal grant right now is holding the captain's life. You say, why? You get money from the county? No, because it really is ARPA money. And for accounting purposes, I wanted the world to know that I'm tracking it. Because it's going to cost us an audit at the end of the year. So the ARPA money that is from the county is called federal because it has federal ties to it. I have to follow all the federal programs, the federal laws. And I'm keeping it tracked. I have a grant coordinator here to keep track of all this stuff. We put it in a fund to keep track of it. As well as my CDBG parking lot money, which again comes in from the county, which again is a federal program, and we'll keep track of it through this fund. Remember when I said we take pensions out of the general fund, and then we have some levy money that pays a portion of the police and a portion of the fire. This 209 says, okay, I'm going to get general property tax for about $146,000. That's what the county told me, plus some rollback money and some homestead money, which the county told me about. So that money I anticipate spending for the police pension, and oh, by the way, the county bills me for collecting their property tax. So the bill for this portion of the collection is included in it. 210 is going to be the exact same thing. There's money that's coming in that we assigned as levy money to the fire pension, and here's the fire pension money that we're going to pay, as well as the county fee. Stormwater has some larger changes from in the past. We had Galleria 1, we had Plymouth Quentin outfalls, we had North Parkway, Wicklow outfalls. We had some Galleria Pump 2 wrap up. We had some Erie Road Park stormwater retrofitting. Most of these projects are done, but not all of them. So there is some money here for wrapping up the projects, but you will see the large differences from prior years to now, because those old projects are wrapping up. New projects will be starting, but I don't have anything in terms of what is starting at this moment. Okay. Insurance proceeds, I anticipate spending what we received from the insurance company, but since I don't have the crystal ball to say how much we're getting from the insurance company this year, I did not anticipate spending anything different than what's in that line. Fire levy. This fire levy, 215, is our permanent fire levy fund, which pays the salaries for, and it's strictly the salary portion, not the overtime or some of the other benefits. It pays the salary for the fire department. You can see that it brings in approximately almost 2.1 million, and we spent approximately 2.1 million. So we're pretty close on that one in terms of what comes in on the top. The bond fund. One of your attachments in the back talks about our debt. They talk about how we are paying almost 1.2 million in 22, going up to 1.221 in 24, dropping off in 2028. So I told you what our debt responsibility is in the box, but this is where I pay the bank. This is where the checks come out. So we have the treasurer's fee, because of course there's property tax money in here, and they charge me to collect it, so we have their fee in here. Then I have the principal payment and the interest payment, and all I've done is shown how we manage to make the payments. So there are some transfers, there's some property tax, a little bit from the state, but I've been able to explain, here's our tax bill, and here's how we have to fill in the gap to make the principal and interest. Road improvement fund. The road improvement fund is mostly property taxes. In the past, we did a lot of maintenance, road, concrete, asphalt maintenance through this fund. 2 years ago, when we had to pay for the large portion of Stevens Boulevard, we significantly drained this fund so that we really don't start out, we're actually starting the year with like 36,000. I anticipate we'll end the year about 62,000. The bulk of the costs in here are standard costs. What you're seeing are huge changes because I had to move those large road projects somewhere else to pay for them because there wasn't enough money here. Could we have paid for them here? Yes, but we would have had to take money from the general fund, which would have been silly when the street fund had money. So we were able to fund it by using the other vehicle this year. Neither one are going to be very healthy next year unless additional tax money comes in that we don't know about yet. Fire levy fund, this money comes in from the property tax, and mostly goes out for equipment. It pays the lease on the fire truck, and then there is equipment that was requested with turnout gear and radios that is in your back schedule, which is included in your line called equipment, which is why it's up 60,000. We put in 52 as an ask, and the rest of the difference is really just, we gotta make these payments for the lease. Stadium repair and maintenance fund. This is an agreed upon fund for repairs to the stadium. It has certain constraints based on our contract. Therefore, we made a commitment that we will fund these improvements to stadiums as a city portion. So we've transferred 30,000 in. And then when the captains pay up, they dedicate a portion to this fund as well for repairs. So if you look at 2020 money as a transfer so that we would be able to continue to make repairs to the stadium. And these are, even though they're large repairs, they're not just humongous repairs we've been discussing, these are still just repairs that basically leave no board. 421 stadium buying project. We get our red tax, we get some rental from the stadium, we get rental from our AT&T tower, we get some parking lot stadium fees, in here. And what do? We pay out the volunteers that work the parking lot, and then we use the rest basically to pay the debt. So that's really what this fund does. It gathers up rent, and it pays the stadium debt. Sewer rehab fund. This fund strictly collects money from the sewer fund to pay the debt, and the debt is strictly isolated in this fund. It was set up this way. I'm sure that there's more of a logical purpose for this, but I go along with it. 438, recreational capital improvement. There was a transfer in 2021. I do not anticipate in the current budget as it's been drafted a transfer. And at the current time, we spent 5,600 last year. I anticipated 3,000. I'm sure some things that could be spent there, but at this point in time, I have not budgeted for anything to go through there. Sewer fund, which is 501. Sewer fund collects its money through the county gives us that money. It's a business fund because it's supposed to be pretty much a standalone fund. We do have a loan application out there for a project which is not in here. Our biggest expenses here, City of Willoughby. We anticipate paying $1.5 million in the City of Willoughby, plus $315,000 for the debt that we signed off on, saying, sure, we promise to pay you our portion of the debt to make these improvements to our common property. So we separated them out, which wasn't done, which may be why 2019 is referenced. We separated them out because we wanted to know the operating costs covered from the debt cost. Because we have such large projects going on right now, and we're incurring such large debt in order to continue to operate these funds, that we felt it important to know this is what we pay for operations, and these are our debt payments, which someday will go away, but right now we do nothing but continue to come through in terms of another project because of the EPA project and requirements. So that's really the big project in there. 606, the senior citizens. We get $89.5 from the county. We've been getting $89.5 from the county. The county basically tells us how they anticipate we'll spend it. Usually it's a little bit of salary and some supplies and utility costs. And this year they came to us that it's your personnel costs. So I take the budget to say, okay, my $89.5 is just for personnel costs, and I've moved all the utility costs and improvements that were non-grant related into the general fund. A little bit of flip-flop, the numbers are the same. You'll see there's a $50,000 line item here that is for pavilions. It's a one-time only grant from the county. You may only use it for capital improvements. Oops, we just did a major repair to the building, but oh goody, we get to use it for pavilion. So that's the anticipation for the grant from the county. I got all that paperwork and from the county saying this is very specific. You will use $89.5 for personnel and related costs, which includes hospitalization, etc., and you have $50,000 for it. Now, the rest of the funds really don't have much activity, Hey, if we get $500 in, then that's great. Alarm monitoring, what we've done in the past, where we didn't have a lot of money, is we purchased one vehicle out of like 3 different places. We pulled up one together to make a vehicle happen. for a vehicle, I know we can't buy a vehicle, well, maybe there's some retrofitting or something, that he's not with the vehicle that's cheaper than, or that he might need, but. Donations, I didn't give you that whole, here's what's coming in, here's what's going out, because donations are very specific. So I'm telling you that at December 31st, we had 75,000, we're open 75. And maybe we'll get 25, but I anticipate spending 70, because truthfully, donations can all go out. I have no restrictions to keep them, I could actually budget the whole 75 or two. And just kind of went with, well, I think 70 will be safe. But the next page says, for those of you that wanted to know what accounting did with those balances under donation, here is every single line item and where it has been signed. So that is our donation. As of December 31st, just some money was spent in January, so some of your Christmas program money is not exactly that number today, but as of December 31st, that was enough. Law enforcement, you can see that we anticipate some law enforcement money coming in, and it's not a lot and going out. Fire ambulance. This is what is picked up on the ambulance fund and pays the additional cost for the fire department in terms of training or comp time, overtime, educational pay, and any other training costs. So it's a significant benefit to the city. Thank you, Chief, for letting us put those charges there. And Steve and I have discussed this in the past, and this is agreeable for both parties that we cover these costs under this one. Unclaimed fund basically is, you know, if you run a business and you have somebody that didn't cash a check, you're supposed to turn it into the state, or maybe, you know, there's an AT&T check out there, rebate to you, and you forgot it, so you check the newspaper, and your name shows up. The city has different rules. After so many years, we put, if you don't cash a check, we try really hard to make sure the check is cashed. But if there's still a check that hasn't been cashed, we put it into unclaimed. So that our bank reconciliation says, hey, you know, it's zero. We've cleared it out of the bank statement, but we know who's in unclaimed. And if it's just there long enough, after a certain number of years, the city will not have a bank. So this is our holding spot for outstanding checks that are more than a year old, but less than 10 or less than 7. So this is kind of the government role. I can't say anymore, but you know, this is where those outstanding checks go. Instead of sending them to the state, we keep them. But we try really hard to make sure people get their checks. Sometimes it's an employee or we go on with pay, but we do our best. Recreation and land and acquisition, you know that in 2020 it was used for planning. We don't anticipate a lot of money coming in, nor do we anticipate a lot of money going out. Our Memorial Trust has been here since before me. I budgeted it in case there's ever something that needs to be done at this site or memorial, but we don't use it. We use the general fund for anything. Corporal Valerie Memorial Park, same thing. I budgeted it. It's been there forever. But anything that we do right now is through the general. Senior bus trip. I said that back in 2020, the senior citizens group of Eastlake gave the city $60,000. Instead of buying a bus, they decided to give us $60,000 so that when we paid Lake Grand to transport them for their activities, we could make a payment out of this fund. We anticipate it to be no more than $10,000 a year, so that's what we have budgeted. It could be less, as you can see. 2021, there were very little bus trips. 2020, again, very little bus trips. So the max would be $10,000 a year for full 12 months. Pay flow, we talked about this before. There's a mistake in my formula there. What's going in needs to be going out, and therefore the fund balance will be zero, and I will fix that. Because it doesn't save my money.
Carolyn, real quick, if I could, so the senior bus trips are not actual bus trips that seniors are taking, this is the Lake Tran stuff, correct? So seniors are allowed to take.
It is the bus trip that the senior citizens sign up for through the senior center. It's just that we don't have our own bus, so we pay Lake Tran to transport them.
Okay, so this isn't actually, because some of the seniors, if they don't have transportation, going to and from the senior center, Lake
That's
Tran
the
is
county's
charged them.
responsibility.
That's what I thought, okay.
These
Just wanted to make
are
sure.
buses, they want to go to, I don't know, obviously, they're going to be honest, a lot of casinos all the time. They're shopping around the country. Sometimes they take a restaurant that's not really close by, so they need transportation.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of thing, so.
Excellent, thank you.
Mhm. I'll fix my glitch. Street opening, okay, the 700 really are, hey, if these people gave us a deposit, I have to give it back. So I could have budgeted to be zero, but for some reason I decided that 130 would probably be a good number to leave it. But if this is what I guess is coming in on deposits, this is what I guess is going on deposits. But should we get a large deposit in the middle or the end of 2022, and I need to return it, I would have to come back and say, hey, guess what? We got more money than we thought, and we're giving it back. Same with 733 building deposits. Same with 734, inspection bond deposits, grade deposits, 735. These are all plan review deposits. Everything is cost of customer. You know, this may not be a taxpayer or resident. Somebody wants to do some building, they need to comply with the rules. They give us a check for our costs or engineering costs, but they also give us this deposit. And this deposit goes back to them. Once everything's all checked off and signed off. So we hold this money, I gotta give it back, it's not mine. Okay? Rainy day fund. Rainy day fund, I am asking, we're not spending it, but we thought maybe in 2020, we might need to spend it, but we were lucky because the Fed came through. But we were ready to spend it. But the rainy day fund is to help protect and balance out for an unusual circumstance. It could be one of our large businesses not being here. It could be a major flood and we have to pay for something that maybe FEMA's not paying for. I cannot tell you all the reasons why you're going to need this, but I guarantee you, you're going to be let down. So I'm asking that you put $200,000 into this fund this year, so that it'll be enough. 27K. I put in here, actually 2027 is the year that the 27th pay comes in. And not the pay sub. I know what my numbers are because this is what everybody gets paid for 2,080 hours. But on a 27 pay, there are extra, 27 pay, the timing of that 2,080 hours doesn't match up with how it would work. So 1 year, maybe I have 26 days plus 3 days. And the next year it's 26 days plus 4 days. Well, all of a sudden, 1 year hits, and I've got to pay this 27 days. So instead of burning the budget with trying to come up with a whole extra payroll with standard operating money, we set aside a little bit every year to make that payment.
This happened when I first came there, it popped up and they weren't ready for it. So that when Caroline and I talked about this, when that happened, when we looked for money we didn't have. So this is a good thing.
Compensated absence, I apologize, something happened in my formula on that one, I didn't have it. Compensated absence, I am asking that, and I can tell you what that fund balance will be because it's in here. I anticipate compensated balances at the end of this year to be $393, $564.56. Now, let me tell you what that is. Remember when I said we have this people that have worked there for a really long, long time, and the people that are new and young. I went through everybody who has been here for more than 20 years. I added up their comp time, their percentage of sick, they don't get a full sick, a percentage of sick, and anything else that I could add up that would do them in terms of a paycheck. Or maybe it's a little longevity, or maybe it's a vacation or some such thing. It amounted to approximately 20 people. It's $1 million. It's $1 million. So, if these guys start to wipe them, here's three of them, three departments. If these guys start to lose their 20-some-year experience folks, I need money to pay for this. I don't think it's fair to put it into their operating budget. And I'd like to plan in advance for some of this. So asking to have a balance of $394,000 at the end of the year, when I know there's $1 million just with those people. It doesn't count me. I'll never be here for 20 years, but I'll retire from here. So there's other people that'll retire, and it's not the three departments where I went and said, give me everybody a point. Okay? So I'm asking that you allow us to put $200,000 in here. Yes, there will be some retirements this year. I'm anticipating about 100 to go out. If it's not 100, then, a little extra that we did spend. But that's the purpose of this fund, is to cover these large balances that are over 20 years worth of accrual, maybe in terms of, they can't say about 20 years of vacation or something, but they have these balances, they're to do them, and they're, let's say, the higher paid people on the scale. Chief, anybody want to add here? Because now I move back into the capital items or requests. Anybody? Any questions?
Actually, I do have one question. So a couple of times I noticed that even within council, it's membership fees. Can you give me an example of a membership fee?
Sure. We belong as a city to the Ohio Municipal League.
Makes sense.
Perfect example. I'll tell you what, I would never not want to be in that one.
Yeah.
For the record. Because with all these grants that came through, they were the first ones to give us information on how to apply, how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. So that Mickey League has been this is the first time I've been in the USA for it. This usually has been well worth it for these past 2-3 years. Excellent service. Excellent.
Thank you.
Do any directors have any concerns about the budget for your department? Any concerns about shortfalls? I know we always like to have more, but
I think over the last few years that we've been able to work with the directors and give the chief things that we've never been able to in the past. So again, I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. We're just having a discussion with another city on the budget item that they have compared to our budget item. And again, regardless that they know we have more money than we've had in a long time, they are still well in their budgets all the time and never even come close to going over. So, we'll make transfers here and there. Caroline Pop, again, I signed for the training, both for especially police and fire, many times through the month for them to go to training. It's not the training like a $500 class, $600 class, but it's more than beneficial for the city to keep our safety forces updated with all that training and their new training. So we're good for that. And I know the chief has one more retirement coming in October in police.